This is the second story coming from me to you, but this time I'm recording from a little island in Bass Strait in Tasmania. And as I'm recording, I'm looking out across an endless blue sea and a vast sky filled with beautiful clouds. It's a very inspiring space to share, and the amount of blue I'm surrounded in right now, the ocean, the air, feels very on point for the throat chakra sequence that I'm currently recording right now. And as I'm writing those notes, as I'm recording for this rainbow serpent journey, which you've heard me mention in the previous video, the stories start dropping in. And just as the previous story was inspired by my heart journey and my memories that have come through this space, this story is inspired by opening of the throat, of communication pathways, of expression, of our friends, the dolphins and the whales. Just after this trip, I'm going to be here for a month journeying with all the crystalline frequencies of the throat. And right after this, I'm going to be on a whale boat, which I'm really excited about. So it just feels like right timing to also share some more stories, because it's a field of creativity, of inspiration, of communication. So here I am. And this story is about a journey to Mt Shasta in the US. And like many Australians who travel overseas, because we have so far to go, we make the trips worthwhile. So often, they're extended journeys. So there are many parts of this story, and I want to focus mainly on the part connecting in with the mountain, Mt Shasta, which has many stories already associated and attached to it in its own right. It's quite a mystical mountain, and there's a lot of mystery and magic there. But prior to this trip, I also was on a vision quest in Sedona, Arizona, and I'd really felt that whole red rock country really calling me for a long time prior to this journey. And it wasn't until I heard about the Oregon Eclipse Festival, I think it was 2017, 2018, that I just knew it was the time. It was the time to go. So not only was I going for this festival with a bunch of friends from Byron Bay, a few of us that made the pilgrimage for this festival, but we all kind of had our own adventures, our own side adventures on the way. And I went over for a little journey through Sedona first, and then met up with my friends in, where was it, San Diego or I don't know, somewhere, and we hired a van and we loaded up all our stuff and we went on an adventure. So on the way to Oregon, we stopped in at Mt Shasta. We were coming internationally, so we didn't have tents, we didn't have all our stuff, so we had to stop in and get last minute supplies. And I managed, luckily, to pick up a tent, a higher tent, but I didn't have any bedding or a pillow or a sleeping bag, or in fact, anything warm for being in a mountain. I was incredibly unprepared. I had a lot of festival outfits for being, in a warm place, but I really wasn't prepared for the mountains at all. But anyway, I winged it. So first of all, there was a few of us that went up ahead to scope out the campsite at Panther Meadows, while another few of us stayed in this B&B because we had online commitments that we had to be a part of. And I was talking with one of the guys that was staying with me at the time, and we were contemplating, what is it about Mount Shasta? Like, we'd just woken up in this new place and we're just feeling into and attuning to the energy here. And for me, I've always thought, just intuitively, this is a throat activation area. Now, for those of you that are aware of the earth chakra points. There are a lot of different perspectives on different sacred sites or emanation points and ley line cross grid points that have significant meanings in the body of the earth. You know, mainly the big popular ones that people talk about, you know, the pyramids and Machu Picchu and all of those places. But a lot of the information is quite varied, and there are different philosophies and points of view on what those places actually are. So I really like to feel it out for myself, just go and be in those places, just really allow my body to attune to the land and to see where I feel it, because our bodies are like a mirror for the earth body, and you know, we are part of this earth. So it makes sense to me that I can feel exactly what's going on below my feet within my body. It's always made sense to me that way, but I don't know how other people tune in, but for me it's very visceral. And I have always felt this real connection to the throat, and even just the American people. I mean, you think about the Americans in comparison to the Australians, you know, us Aussies, we have that whole tall poppy syndrome thing, which is, you know, you don't want to stand out too much or you're going to get cut down. And just even the whole colloquial sort of attitude around if you shine too much, you know, people just will find any excuse just to cut you down. So we generally keep our heads down. Doesn't mean we're not very creative people. Some of the most amazing inventions and creators are coming out of Australia, but our ability to broadcast that to the world is perhaps not as great. And you know, a lot of people around the world don't even know where Australia is. I think there's a running joke at the Austrian airport for people who are or maybe it's the other way around, people trying to go to Austria end up in Australia and like, where the hell am I? Anyway, yeah, where was I with that story? Yes, so anyway, I was feeling into this place, and at the same time I was doing some research, and my friend and I were discussing like, well, the research says it's the base chakra, but I'm feeling it at my throat. And then it really became clear the connection between the lower and upper worlds, because in the chakra system, you know, we have 3 at the base, we have the heart as like the bridge, and 3 at the top. So essentially it's like keys on a piano. It's a melodic scale, and doesn't matter how many times that scale is repeated, there are certain resonance codes. So the base is the first of the bottom 3, whereas the throat is the first of the top 3. So the base and the throat are very much interrelated. And it felt to me that even though people were saying that Mt Shasta is a base chakra place, coming from Australia, and like, you know, you go to places like Africa or anywhere in the Red Desert, you're like, that feels more base sacral to me than anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere. But I would say that the American people demonstrate by their a way of communicating so beautifully. I'm coming back around because I was talking about Australian communications and how we're not that great at communicating, yet the Americans are very good at communicating. Whether they know what they're talking about or not, or whether what they're putting out into the world is having any base and any expertise or not, they're still good at putting a good lot of noise out there, for better or worse, right? So yeah, it really resonated to me that any emanation point in the Northern Hemisphere, specifically in America, has to be about communication. The people embody that. The people know their worth and they express it. And that's something that's actually really appealing for us Aussies who sometimes are a little bit kind of feeling left behind down under. So yeah, I really was seeing and feeling the resonance of that bass throat dance, and realizing that it may be the bass, but it's a higher octave of the bass. It's like it's a frequency that's actually above what we experience when you come down to Tasmania or places, down under. You feel what it is to be in base energy. You feel what it is to be in sacral energy. You feel the density and the dreaming. You feel that. And you feel the spaciousness when you go into the Northern Hemisphere. You feel the speed and the frequency within the air is different. And it may also be because our land is so old here and all our mountain ranges are relatively small compared to Northern Hemisphere mountains, but it's because they're so ancient. They're so old that they're worn down, and you have all these incredible peaks and mountains in the Northern Hemisphere that have a high frequency. These are buzzing, like for an Australian sensitive to go over there and feel it, I'm like, I'm pinging, like I constantly feel like I'm having to shift my frequency to adapt to where I go and feel. It's like being, a radio transmitter that's just tuning into being able to hear the code. So by the time my two other friends who were at the B&B and I got up to Panther Meadows where we were camping, our other friends must have been out for a hike. We saw our campground area, but we didn't see anyone around. So I thought, look, it's a great opportunity to have a nap. I put my tent up under these beautiful trees and, in a flower patch. It was just so beautiful. And I just was overcome with tiredness. Can't blame it on the jet lag because I'd been in the States for already a couple of weeks. I'd have to just put it to what I was saying before. It's the frequency changes when you're around these powerful epicenters of energy where these ley lines are crossing over. I really feel it. I feel it in my body, and sometimes the best way to integrate the energies is to sleep. So I pitched my tent in a beautiful flower patch under these gorgeous pine trees and had a nap. So by the time I woke up, it was on dusk, and I poked my head out of the tent. I looked around for my friends and I couldn't see anyone. So I was like, that's strange. I'm gonna go for a walk and see if I can find them. I was feeling quite out of it, I was really kind of a bit disorientated. I'd just woken up out of a dream state, and I'm at the base of Mt Shasta and it's dark. I don't really know where I am, but I'm just wandering and bambling through the forest. And then I come across some people in the forest, and this guy said to me, "Are you looking for firewood?" And I said, yeah, I guess I am. So, I was just kind of collecting some firewood, and there was, some other people there. I wasn't really, it's this weird thing. It's like I don't have a huge amount of memory about what actually happened or how I met these people. But next minute, I went back to my campsite and my friends were sitting around the fire, and all of a sudden all these other people were sitting around the fire, or a big circle around the fire. And my friends were kind of giving me this weird look, like, I think even one of my friends was like, yeah, who are these people? And I looked around at them and I'm like, I don't know. I had no kind of like actual memory of inviting them back to my fire, but apparently I did. And yeah, I think I might have been sort of potentially sleepwalking, not even sure. And I was definitely altered in some way. So anyway, we're around the fire with our new friends, and I remember two of them specifically. One of them was a woman, youngish, probably my age. I mean, I was, where was I, maybe in my 30s at the time. And there was a guy, a young guy with a big white dog, like a husky kind of dog. And I remember just staring at this dog, and it was getting colder and colder up in the mountains, and thinking, gee, I wouldn't mind having that in my tent. It was really cold, I had no blankets or sleeping bag. And I thought having a big fluffy dog would be awesome. And somehow I basically made that happen. Also, the white dog situation really kind of acted as like a reference point or a trigger point for me, because I've had this really weird experience throughout my life. It's almost like that Matrix moment where you see the black cat, you know, that scene where there's a black cat just keeps walking past. Well, for me, it's a white dog. When I see a white dog, or when white dogs show up, I know something's going on. Something that is a little bit beyond this world. It's almost like the white dog is my signpost, just to know that there's otherworldly activities at hand. So I see this white dog, and I see that this young man has all these blankets, and here I am, I have a tent and no blankets, and I'm like, I need those two in my tent. And before you know, I think all my friends were like, what the hell, Alex? Why are you inviting some random stranger into your tent and a dog? But it was like this really strange moment. I cannot put my finger on it, but in reflection, I felt like I was in an altered state, going through the forest like a Pied Piper, and I'd gathered up a crew of people. I've got no memory of this, but I brought them around my fire, and next minute I have all the things I need. I need warmth, I need blankets, and the white dog shows up, and I'm like, you're coming in my tent. So aside from that, that's a whole other story I'm going to share with you, which is a little bit embarrassing because I do maybe come across as a bit wild. I'm really not like that, I promise, but I was in my heyday. So anyway, the other thing that was quite unusual was this woman who has since become a friend of mine and someone I've kept in touch with. She actually lives in Arizona, in Phoenix, and she said to our group that she had a gift for us, and she wanted to give us all a message. And we were like, okay, sure. Had no idea what that meant. As I said, I had friends from Byron, friends from Hawaii, friends from Canada. Like, there were people from all around this campfire, and we're all just getting to know each other on our first night. And then here I am going and getting these random people to sit by the fire, and next minute there's this woman saying she has a gift for us all. And she starts standing up in front of each and every one of us. I think first she did it once. Yeah, first she started, I guess you would call it speaking in tongues or in light language. And at the time, I didn't really know what that was all about. I was like, what's going on here? She was speaking a whole nother language that sounded beautiful and galactic and interdimensional. And we're all sitting there going, oh my God, what's this all about? But also kind of entranced. And then she came up to each and every one of us and was giving us these almost like unique vocal sound codes that felt like a wave of healing. And again, like, probably normal for Mount Shasta, to be honest, but you know, we were all kind of coming in fresh, not really knowing what to expect, and we'd gone straight into the weird and wacky places straight up. So yeah, that was all very interesting, and I thought, okay, well, there we go. And yeah, we agreed to meet our new friends the next day on the mountain to go for a hike. But the next morning I woke up. Now, you know, mind you, I've got a husky, like a big fluffy white dog that I'm spooning, and a random bloke with a whole lot of blankets in my tent. And I woke up the next morning thinking, oh my God, who is in my tent with me? You know, like it was nice having this fluffy dog, but I turned around to look at this guy and I was so relieved. He was very handsome, gorgeous looking young man, very unthreatening. And I was like, phew. I mean, I could have, you know, he could have been anyone. He could have been an axe murderer. I don't know. But for whatever reason, that happened. And actually what unfolded was that we became good friends with our new kind of cosmic buddies that showed up on the mountain. And there's a whole unfolding that happened with this young man and myself, and it was a very short-lived love story. It was a beautiful connection that happened, but most of our connection was actually in the dream spaces. It was very interesting sharing a tent with him. So he happened to not have a tent, but he had blankets. I had a tent, but no blankets. So it was kind of like, you know, it happened, and there was a beautiful blossoming and unfolding and incredibly deep vision spaces that we shared together in dream space that involved the dragons under the mountain. I was shown some really phenomenal white water dragon magic dance unfolding that I wasn't fully perhaps even conscious of fully at the time, because I didn't really even know about the connection with mountains and dragons at the time either. But it was very, very clear when I shared the dream spaces with this young man that both he and I were working with dragon energies, and we were dancing. We were in the union codes in these mountains, and it was quite profound. So that's a whole story for another time. But as I said, it was just a short-lived little bit of magic, and you know, I was bawling my eyes out when we had to leave and continue on with our journey. But yeah, it was definitely a magical moment. But the next day, we went up onto the mountain to do a bit of a ceremony, a bit of a, you know, introducing ourselves to the spirit of the mountain, making offerings and connecting in the way in our little collective group. And this woman who we'd met from the previous night came with us. And she came up to me at some point on the mountain, and you know, she was a very unusual character. She was the most galactic person I'd ever met before. But she said, I have something for you. I've been told to give you these crystals. And I opened up my hand, and she put these tiny little crystals in my hand. They were 7 tiny crystals, miniature. And yet she said they were very sacred, and that they were from an underwater cave in Arkansas. The Arkansas crystals are well known for being incredibly clear and pure, but they had also been spending time in the Queen's Chamber in Egypt. So these crystals had been taken all around the world and passed on to various people. And somehow they had been in her possession, and she told me that she was told that they were to go to me. And I was thinking, what am I going to do with these crystals? And instantly I was like, they've got to go to Uluru. That's, you know, that's where they want to go. And I'm like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to Uluru is going to be. But again, that's a story for another time. So aside from all of this, meeting our 2 new interesting friends, having an incredible journey into Panther Meadows and into a space that, oh my gosh, this place is so magical, is so pure, so yeah, we just had the best time communing there. And a friend of ours actually totally disappeared, kind of like myself. Like, we were in other dimensional spaces. She just disappeared for a while. I'll have to ask her to share her story one day, but she had a whole interdimensional experience there. I mean, we were meeting all kinds of strange, unusual characters that had said they'd been in Agartha and in the center of the earth, and you didn't know if they were just tripping hippies or what was going on, but it for real is a next dimensional space, and I certainly experienced that firsthand in those moments, those first nights around the fire. But there was another part of the story that really surprised me. So after packing up our camp and preparing for the next leg of our journey, we stopped off in the town at the bottom of the mountain to have a look around, and there were some fantastic crystal shops, really lit me up. And for those of you that don't know, I am a bit of a crystal geek. I've been working in the field of gems and crystals for about 10 years or so, working as a crystal wholesaler, but also a liquid crystal practitioner, hence all my yabbering ons about crystals. And I used to just love going to crystal stores. Well, not all of them. Some of them are quite dusty and sort of disheartening, but these ones in Mount Shasta, the crystals were pinging. I've never seen such beautiful high quality crystals. I mean, this was next level high vibe, it was really inspiring to see what was available in these places. And of course, I took home some souvenirs. I got some of these crystals that I call singers because they're just tiny, fine quartz crystals that when you move them in your hand, they sound like they're singing. So I called them my singing crystals. I was so activated with these crystals, not just those singing crystals, but all the crystals in this store, that I started feeling these currents of energy that I couldn't control my body, and it was kind of embarrassing. And I said to my girlfriend, oh my God, I'm having next level energy rushes now. And she said, me too. The two of us were holding onto these crystals and literally wouldn't have been surprised if we took off like rocket ships. So we took the crystals that we were attuning to into a room out of sight of the other people, because it was kind of embarrassing how much energy was pulsing through my body. I couldn't actually stop myself from completely vibrating. And then I started speaking that language that the girl the previous nights had demonstrated to us, this light language, this stream of consciousness that was moving. But I'd never done this before. I never thought about it. I never wanted to. I just thought it was all a bit unusual. Had no real concept of what it was all about, but it was coming through me like a freight train. I could not stop it. It was like this, the experience that I'd had at Mount Shasta had done something to my frequency or my energy, where my throat was just opened up, and I've got these singing crystals in my hands, and the speed and the light that was moving through my body was kind of like a high voltage electricity moving 1,000,000 miles an hour from outer space. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And the fluidity and the speed of this language, of this sound, of this frequency that came through my vocal cords, I was equally shocked and blissed at the same time. And I managed to fumble for my phone and record myself, because I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was completely new to me. And I know it's probably more common now. I'm seeing a lot of, I've since, seen, there's lots of light code groups and stuff on online, and people sharing different, starseed activations and all this stuff. But to be honest, I'm just a down-to-earth girl from Australia. I'm not really that out there, but perhaps I am. Actually, seems like I am, which is a shock to me. So that was a really incredible experience. And from that moment forward, I realized that there was some new circuitry within my body because I went to that place. It's like when we attune to different areas on the earth to pick up our memories, pick up our codes, as I've shared in that other video, you don't know what is going to come to you and what gifts are going to come through, at the time when you go to those places. They look different and they express differently. But I know, and I knew, I had this deep feeling that I was going to get a vocal activation being at that area. I'd been working with the energies of turquoise for a while, specifically about that bridge between the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. And for those of you that are receiving my notes on turquoise and my videos on turquoise and the frequencies of those crystals and their wisdom teachings and their functions and connection with Palladian star systems, there's so much information that each of these crystals actually holds. They're like libraries. These stones that we have the privilege to experience on this earth in all the colors, in all the shapes. I mean, it's for a creative person who loves shape and color, like for me, it's just next level to actually be able to hear their sound, their actual song. Each of these stones has a song and has a language of light that moves through them. And they also showed me, and they also transmitted through to me, that showed itself when we were at the beloved festival prior to going to the eclipse. So I'm just remembering now, we went to various festivals. I remember being in the presence of an Andean master who was there, an old Kero man who had come. There were amazing, like really sweet little old men and women from all over the world, especially the Americas, South America, Central America, Mexico, all the Native American people. All of these elders were coming from all over the world to be at this global eclipse gathering. And it was such a profound honor to be a part of the ceremonies that took place when these different tribal wisdom keepers came together, and some of them said that they had not been together, that these tribes had not reconnected since like thousands of years. Some of them, or like I'm probably pulling that number out of space, by the way. It's a story, right? So I'm a bit of ad lib, but like it had been a long time. I could probably get some more accurate information, but I do know that there were some incredible reunions that were taking place at this solar alignment time. And with all the codes I had picked up in Sedona, Arizona, which is another story, and at Mt Shasta, and on the way with all of these pilgrims coming together for this focal point. I mean, the frequencies that were weaving together through the field was so visceral. I mean, it's very hard to put into words actually, but it was coming through my voice and through my hands. So when the energy moves through the body, it's like there's a typewriter of coding energy that comes through the hands, and each of the fingers are like a platonic solid, a geometry. And when we're keying with our fingers, almost on these like invisible kind of circuit boards, I can see it, I can hear it, and I feel the crystals moving through my body. And it's a really way out experience when you don't actually know what's going on, but you completely trust it and you're going with it. It's something that obviously years on now, I have a little bit more understanding of what was going on. But at the time, like my circuits were almost blown. But I also felt incredibly honored to be part of that gathering and part of that code sharing and story sharing and memory keeping of the earth. This is why we tell stories. This is why every ancient culture is oracular in nature. It is about sharing these stories, sharing these wisdoms that are moving through the earth and through us. And the more we can become like a hollow bone, we become open as a channel and get out of our own way and just allow what wants to move through, it's, yeah, nothing short of a miracle. So another story that will follow on from this at another time is what happened to those crystals that were given to me at Mount Shasta, along with the singing crystals that I received in that place where my voice first opened up. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you at the right time. And until then, I'll see you later.